Hello, everybody. How are you? Happy Monday. And guess what? We back, right? We said we was going to take a break,
We
but we got a bonus episode. We just could not leave out without this bonus episode. And so yeah, your girls are here. Monday. How's it going, Joe? How you feeling?
It's going. I think they missed us, that's also
Oh,
why we needed
listen.
an extra bonus.
Eh, Absolutely. Even though it's only been a week, they needed just a little something to keep them going. And also
This
this
is
gives us one more opportunity
mm,
to share what you are up to this summer in the great adventures of the Ascend Summit that is coming. Tell the people what's going on, how we doing this, what's good, what's good.
listen, if y'all haven't got your tickets yet, oh my god, you wanna get in the building. We have some dynamic speakers. We are all going up. We are ascending the mountain of God. God is gonna be in the building. Imma be in the building. Liz is gonna be in the building. You don't
Definitely.
wanna miss it. Get in the building. It will be Friday, July 25th and Saturday, July 26th. So just come out and worship with us.
Definitely, definitely. You don't want to miss it, y'all. So we'll keep you posted through postings as well, but definitely get your ticket. DM her if you need any more information as well, or DM us here. We'll be glad to help you. Also save the date. We're going to launch our new season live in person September 6th. Come hang out with us. We are excited to actually have our first pop-up actually. We tried to do it last year,
Yes.
but we got it going this year. It's official, y'all. So stay tuned for more information how you can RSVP your spot for this event. You definitely, like I said, you don't want to miss that. It's going to be bananas.
Yes.
And it's free, right? We said free 99,
Free.
as we always say, free 99.
Free, free,
But
free, 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 free.
while we are on break, definitely take the time to catch up on all the tea. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, it is Tea Time with Liz and Friends. You can definitely catch up on every episode that we've had here on Tea Time for the last 5 years. So thank you all for your love, support, subscriptions. Tell a friend, subscribe. Let's get our subscriptions up, let you know when the tea is hot and when it's not, right? So definitely make sure you check out all of that information as well. You can catch us here on social media, following us here on Facebook, on our page, or our Instagram as well. So I gotta change that. Tea time with Liz and friends, not tea time with Liz. We have upgraded. We have soared. So and definitely if you have any comments, any um testimonies or stories of how like any of the guest speakers us have touched your hearts, we definitely want to hear those. Any recommendations of topics that you guys want to hear and talk about, we are willing to do it here on Tea Time with Liz and Friends. All right, so we're gonna get into this bonus tea tonight. I'm so excited. I got to meet this lovely
Yes.
woman during my job event, and we just connected so well, and I'm excited to share this conversation with you all. You all are going to love Miss Katherine Barton. She is here tonight, who is an amazing author, and you are going to just thrive. But Miss Katherine, welcome to Tea Time with Liz and Friends. How are you?
Welcome.
I am great. It's great to be with both of you and get a sip of tea.
Yes, come on, Miss Catherine. Yes, I love it. I love it. So before we get into, the tea of the night, you want to tell the viewers just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I grew up in New Jersey, which it is in the United States of America, actually.
Yes.
And my father was a minister, a Methodist minister, though I did not grow up. He did not have a church most of the time that I was growing up. but it was a faith-filled family. I did not have the easiest upbringing. We lived with a kind of rageful grandma who was I'm sure she had our best interests at heart, but it just didn't seem like that on many days. And I came to Minnesota, actually, to McAllister, many years ago, when I was lucky enough for that to happen, which was a wonderful experience. But I married late. I always thought in my life that a man would save my life. I kind of thought that was kind of what my whole life was about, and the expectation from the church and my family. And I did marry very gratefully late in life, in my 40s, and it didn't quite work out the way I thought. It was it had wonderful moments, and it had enormous heartbreak, and so I ended up getting a divorce actually late in life, in my 60s, and that led to the book that I've written, Yearning for Love, a reluctant divorcee's rocky road to Nirvana. And the last 10 years have really been about finding the strength that I have by myself that I never ever could have had if I had remained married. So it's been a real journey of growth. It's been a deepening of my spiritual journey in a way that I could not have anticipated, and things that I never ever thought I could do by myself, or I'm actually thriving in doing. So I'm excited, and the writing of the book was an incredibly healing project for me. So that is a little bit about me, and I sure will find out more as we talk.
Yes, most definitely. And thank you so much for just sharing so far your journey. Um so as you had shared, obviously you've been through the strict side of the family. Shout out to all the pastors' kids out there. And you've done the marriage thing and have children, but then you hit a rocky point in life later in life, like you had stated, um that you came to this divorce decision, and then but yet out of it you birthed something so amazing, which is this book. And so in this journey, what in a sense has stuck out the most in the journey that you would like to share about the journey?
Well, I think one thing that really, and I'm almost embarrassed to say that I didn't realize this even until the book was actually finally published and in hardcover, and actually looking like this.
Oh
I
wow.
did not realize until it was actually published that I really was not trained to be a strong person as a child. I was actually, as a woman, trained to kind of be weak.
Wow.
Wow.
And that was the kind of horrible thing to realize late in life. And that there really, as I look back, I became to realize more and
Mm.
more that there were not people in my life telling me to be strong. There were, men
Wow.
telling me about certain ways to behave. But for whatever reason, that just wasn't there for me. And so realize, and actually, that is why it was such a profound experience to be able to live a number of years now single and actually develop a strength that is genuinely joyful,
Wow.
and which is not it's not what you think is going to happen in life. So I think just that the ability to recognize strength. Actually, I actually wrote another book before the one that I actually ended up publishing, and it was really kind of a long story about my terrible marriage. And
Mm.
I actually went to Ireland, and there's actually a place in the middle of Ireland called the Rock of the Sacred Feminine.
Okay.
And I had a kind of amazing experience at this rock, and I realized after it's an enormous rock. It looks kind of like a cat. And I realized after I was at this rock that people really didn't want to really want to read about a crummy marriage. What they really would like to read about was all the strength and all the lessons that I learned when I actually had to be on my own in a way that I did not necessarily want. But the
Mhm.
freedom that actually came for standing up for myself. And
Wow.
so anyway, that's a real joyful part of the journey.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And what what is in awe for me is that the age range that you actually
Yeah.
got married and got divorced. We have so many women who just desire to get married and get married and get married. And I feel like you alone will have so much wisdom to give them, you know, at marrying at the age of 40. Like, some people think that is a happily ever after getting married, and it's not. Even at the age of 40 plus,
Right.
there's so much to just being married. So
Absolutely. And
when did
go
it
ahead.
hit you that you no
Go
no
ahead.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please. I can't wait to hear what you have to say, Joe.
I was gonna ask the question. I was gonna say, when did it hit you that you had broken pieces?
Um, well, I can think of, do you mean in terms of the marriage or in terms of just kind of generally?
Well, both actually.
Okay,
So like broken pieces in the marriage, and then having to pick up those pieces
sure.
after the
Great.
marriage, like after your
Thank
divorce
you.
and
That's a
separation and
great
all that.
question. Well, part of it was, really very early on, things happened in the marriage that we went on a little. I know we went on a little kind of. We had a cabin up north, and we went, on a weekend thing, and he just wasn't particularly nice. And then things
Mm.
sort of kept happening, and I I I talked a lot actually in the book about people, how you have this little thing happens and you just kind of overlook it.
Mm.
And for example, that particular weekend, there's just quite a lot of distance, and he wasn't very kind or polite about something. And but I just kind of really overlooked that. And what I think the biggest time, though, I think I was in actually a kind of retreat setting with a number of people in a spiritual community I was a part of. And I just really, I went to talk to the leader, and she turned to me and she said, "You're dying."
Wow.
And I told her a dream
Mm.
that I had had. And so I went back to my team, and I looked like I had died myself at that moment. And I spent the next few days really looking at what was going on. And I realized that I was behaving in many ways like, I was in myself sabotaging the marriage. And I would say to him a lot, if things don't get better, I'll leave. And all those kind of ways. I was sabotaging the marriage myself, but also we did not know how to make it come back together. Neither of
Mm.
us had the skills for that.
Wow.
And then so that was one moment. There were other moments later, actually after the marriage was over. One of them that sticks in my mind. I was actually riding my bike, and I got home and I had somehow lost my keys to my house.
Mm.
And an amazing um, miracle. I got a call on the phone, and somebody had found the keys, and there was a little Petco label on it, and
Oh,
the person found it had called Petco and asked who it was, and they called me, and I went to get the keys, and I was so happy. Well, I started, this woman, so she opens the door to give me the
Wow.
keys, and I start sobbing of her and telling her the whole story of the divorce.
oh goodness.
Let me tell you, that was the last thing she wanted to know. So I think there was
Right.
a lifelong hate of Petco came out of that. She's not picking up anybody else's keys, let me tell you.
I bet. Oh, I love it.
So there were a lot of, I cried in front of, I think, every waitress, every financial planner, every retail outlet. So not only, so I just made sure everybody knew this was really bad. So yeah, there was a lot of broken pieces. So thanks for asking.
Wow. That is, I want to kind of go a little deeper with that. So you kind of talked about how, you said you weren't built to be a strong person, and
Right.
then now you're broken, right? After this divorce. So how did you start to, build yourself again, or like where did you start to pick up the pieces in starting a new life?
Um, I think, well, I actually had the week that actually I knew the marriage was over. I went down to the river, and I literally heard a voice that said, the resources will always be here. And I a lot, it was enormous faith. The first thing I did a lot was I lived near the Mississippi River, and I would walk down to the river at the beginning, probably maybe even 5 times a day, and I would just pray. I would just
Wow.
pray that I would be able to go ahead. And that went on. There was a lot of huge relief in nature. So there was, I don't know how many times I would go down there, and I just would sit on the river or look at the water and just know that things they were somehow going to go ahead. I really did believe from the very beginning that there would be a positive outcome to this whole thing. There was going to be a positive vision. And actually, even my ex, he was really great in many ways. That the days when I would feel so badly that I could hardly walk across the room, he would say, "You keep your eye on the prize. It's going to be okay." And that was a beautiful, beautiful thing to have happened to me. But I think actually generally having a vision that was going to be all right over the flood, that was enormous. I think acknowledging grief, how really terrible it was. And a lot of people don't think you should, cry in front of everybody. For me, it was okay to cry in front of everybody,
Yeah.
And there were times when it was self-pity, true. But at least I wasn't holding it in, which I think ultimately is worse for you. I had a therapist that I went to, several different people over that period of time. Somebody I could just talk very specifically about what are we going to do? Okay, it's Christmas. What are we going to do about this? How are you going to behave? All this kind of very specific and very thoughtful advice. I had, actually, one of my health providers said to me within the first few months, she says, find 3 friends and tell them you want to be with them 30 minutes every week, and you can do whatever you want. You can cry the whole time. They can hold you in their arms. Just get three people that will commit to actually allowing you to be yourself during this really hard time. And also
that's good.
And my spiritual practice, yeah, it was very valuable and very beautiful, and a strong spiritual practice in many ways. I had something that I did every day. The writing practice was critical to me, just writing out every emotion that I was having. Prayer, extraordinary prayer, and praying to God that, I don't know what to do. And really admitting my own helplessness and genuinely, putting my life out there and asking for the kind of support that the divine can give. Those were extraordinary things. And I think just community. I had several spiritual communities that I've worked with that have been friends for a long time. Those communities were just lifebloods to me. And a long-term group of women's friends that extended themselves to me time and time again and said, you can be here anytime, anytime 24/7. It's so important for me. And I had after I had that insight that the resources are always there. There were times when I say, if anything comes into my mind, I need to follow up on it. So I would call, if it came into my mind, I would call them.
So, I love it.
So that was great. And people did things for me, way beyond, birthday parties and things like that. And I was so grateful for that.
Yeah, no, that you need a circle. You really do. But I want to go back to a couple of things that you said before Joe asks you the next question. I love the fact that you use nature, you use some kind of outlet to just kind of find your serenity, your peace, and just kind of be vulnerable and let go. We had talked about that in a couple episodes a while ago, of how it is hard for us women sometimes to be so vulnerable with ourselves and cry. And so I just want to say thank you for sharing and being transparent about sharing that, like really tapping into the grieving. And I think we said that about our divorce journeys too, of like it's a grieving process, right? And just being able to free yourself, regardless if it's the waitress or the person at the bank. At least you're getting it out, right? And so I just really commend you for that, for just being vulnerable. And I know how freeing that has had to be. But I did want to ask you a question. How did that feel and hopefully this isn't too personal, so it's up to you if you want to answer, but how did you feel about your ex, encouraging you? Like, sometimes divorces don't always end on good notes with everybody. Was that hard for you to heal and hear good things, or like how was that journey for you and that connection?
Well, I was very lucky. I mean, he's a very good person. He's a very good, very high integrity person. And we tried so hard, so hard. I mean, we were in therapy for years.
Wow.
And and then it just finally got to the point where it was not going to go further. So, and we continued to be friends. He actually passed away last fall. So
Oh,
that,
okay.
that in itself was a whole journey.
Right.
But
Oh, I'm sorry
we
to hear that.
maintained continual friendships. I continue to have, he had children from a prior marriage, and we continue to get together for holidays and things like that. And I had a couple of, he's very good with his engineer, very good with home projects. He helped me with some really hard things.
Mm.
Um, I, you know, I, just because we couldn't be married anymore didn't mean I didn't want him in my life. So
Wow, that's good. That's
so that
good.
I was very lucky. I mean, I trusted him enormously with things that happened. We actually did the divorce ourselves. We didn't even have, we had only a lawyer for a very tiny little part of it. So I was very lucky. But I think, I mean, I was lucky because we had always worked on it. We had always tried for one another. We always, both of us wanted a loving relationship. And when I got to the point where, um, he even said to me at one point when I was going to go on a learning journey for a couple of years, and I said, I really honestly think that if I do this, it will lead to our divorce. And he said, but you care about it enormously, right? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I think you should do it. But he genuinely had my best interest at heart. And that's an
Wow.
incredible gift that I had.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and that you still, and I think understanding that you still have the love, even though you're not with the person anymore, that the love is still
Mm.
there and that sustains you. And that becomes a resource for the rest of your life.
I
So
love it.
very
I love it.
lucky.
Oh, I love it.
Mm,
I'm
yeah,
not gonna cry. Joe, you
yeah.
better take
That
over.
that actually that's a
That's
blessing.
beautiful. It
That
is such a
that
blessing.
definitely is a blessing to have. Because like Liz said, some marriages end, on a bad note, and where they're not getting along, and I had, like, my personal experience. I had my ex-husband trying to push me to hurry up and get over it. It happened. It's in the past. Hurry up and get over it. Who are you to tell me to get over what you did to me? So,
Right.
everybody didn't have that. That was a blessing that you guys had that
Yes.
relationship, that type of foundation where where he could encourage you, and push you towards your healing, and you were in a place where you can receive that for him, from him.
Right.
That's a blessing. I also want to go back a little bit further where you were talking about the serenity in nature. I can
Mhm.
relate to that because that is also what I had did too. Um, just going for walks and looking at the beauty in the leaves, and feeling the breeze on my skin, and just in awe on the creation of God's glory and what He had created, and that alone is healing, because you're
Yes.
focused on the beauty of God's creation, and in doing that you're exchanging His beauty for your
Oh,
ashes.
that's beautiful. Do you have a favorite place, Joe?
Yeah. I do not. I just get out when I get out,
Uh-huh.
and I just like to just look around.
Okay.
I
No,
I just
for
like to
real.
look around, and I like to be in water. Being in front of water, I didn't realize how freeing it is to be in front of a body of water. Not just a body of water, but a body of water like a beach where there's nothing on the other side blocking anything, because it's like I'm releasing everything, like all the stress and everything is flowing out of me, and it's going
Oh, wow.
away, and there's nothing blocking it from
Yeah,
freeing, from just going away.
right.
It's so freeing. That's why I love to travel. I love to be on the beach and stuff like that. So, um,
Beautiful.
but yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting as a resource. But is there anything else that helped you, like, rebuild after your relationship? Like, any resources that helped you heal and rebuild?
Um, you know, I think that basically like community, the spiritual life, you know, spirit, constant spiritual practice, you know, people, really beautiful people that were in my life. I also, I think, well, within the first couple of years, what happened was I actually went
Yeah.
back to work, and I actually built my business. And
Mm.
that actually was very, I think I built my confidence up more. And I think for many people, I think working, if they have something they like to do, that actually can actually be a huge, can be one mode where actually can make you grow. You know, if you have a professional interest, I did strategic planning with organizations, and I had more business than I'd ever had before for some reason. And that was a real, it
Mm.
told me I could be independent. It told me I could do well. It told me that people thought I did things well, that I was smart. All those things were really, really important things. I did quite a bit of travel too. I'm quite a,
Nice.
um, well, I told you that I was in Ireland one time, and then also my daughter and I went over to the UK as well. I think all those things helped
Love it.
heal me, you know, just expanding myself, doing things that were bigger than me, seeing all the things in the world that
That's good.
are possible, you know,
Yeah,
huge things.
I love that. I love that. It is. It's about the bigger things, going after what you think you can, and you can, it's amazing. And I know you talked a lot about, some of the community or some of the people around you. Um, but how did your I guess community around you, your support as you were healing, as you were, taking this new journey for you, and you were becoming a better you, a greater you, a confident you, how did they start to respond to that? Did anybody question you? Did they say we don't like it? Or, how did your community respond to this new Catherine?
You know, I was lucky. First of all, most of the people I know were divorced already, so they had
Okay.
enormous, enormous compassion for the whole thing. Um,
Awesome.
there, so they were extremely supportive. They understood what a tender time it was. So there was a lot of special, care. I think there was one relationship, or actually two relationships, a situation where the woman was divorced, and I got very emotional with her, and she did not like it. Basically,
Wow.
she was not a person that was not particularly comfortable with the emotion, and so I learned from that not everybody is really interested in supporting you. I mean, it's not their thing, you know.
Right.
That's
That's
true.
fair. That's
That's
fair.
true.
That's
And,
fair. Yeah.
Mhm.
also they don't have the capacity for that, you know.
That's so good. That is so good. That is so good. Exactly.
Yeah, really good.
Exactly.
So
And
one
so
of
how did go ahead.
well,
Wow.
just to go back to your question about other things that helped me, we did actually sell the house that we had, uh, my daughter had been raised in and so forth. 2 years, and that was probably a really good thing. To get away. I know some people who have like moved across the country and things like that. And I think there's a lot of really good things about being able to do that.
Mhm.
And I personally took comfort in things that I loved and cared about. I had cared about this house a lot. Um, I took comfort in being able to be around things that were really familiar to me. I did not make a lot of new friends, but I deepened the relationships I had. And so that maybe just one, but I think the symbol of getting rid of the house that had been so important to us was finally actually probably a really good decision. You know that you need ultimately you need new space. You need we did that after about 2 years. That was able where I was able to kind of create a whole new image of who I was, and with a lot of, so that helped. That helped too.
Wow. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. So, what are the most common misconceptions you have encountered about being single or divorced?
Well, one of them happened just very recently, actually, and this guy kept saying to me, "Oh, poor Catherine, look at her." Like I said,
Wow.
because I am unpartnered at this point, and I just
Mhm.
said to him, "I have never been so lonely than when I was married," and that
Wow.
that surprised him enormously. And, I think there are a lot of notions that being married is, necessarily very positive. You have a lot of companionship. And my experience was, particularly in those later years, was pretty much the opposite of that. I felt so profoundly disconnected from people that someone that I was living with, that actually made me more lonely. So, and I think anybody that's been through it, like probably the two of you, could talk about that whole thing as well. That it's something that happens a lot, in a marriage. So I think that, and then, I think being single has an enormous number of advantages in terms of freedom. I know, particularly the age that I'm in, a lot of people that I know, we're getting old, and having to take care of, and a number of people actually were very happily married are choosing not to partner again. They enjoy the freedom of it. They enjoy all the choices they can make themselves. And a lot of people, a lot of women, as they are aging, they spend really an enormous amount of time caregiving their mate. And they do it out of love, and they do it. It's beautiful, but a lot of people do not want to choose that as they get older. There's actually a group that I read this article in the paper a while back. There's a group called Married Apart Together, and they're people that they get together, but they're very specific about not having a lot of obligation on the person for when they get older, for having to take care of them, because it becomes a very big job. So, I think, the notion of actually being happy and being single and having beautiful friendships and having a social life and activities you want is really actually going to be a very beautiful thing. It's not to say that it isn't lonely sometimes, but I think there's so much freedom and strength in being able to manage your life on your own and make choices about the kind of people you want to be with and the people that you love. So that might be one of them.
Wow, I love it. I love
That
it.
was good.
No, it was, and just the I think the eyesight of seeing the freedom, right? That you can do what you want to do as a single person. Granted, it's not having that consistent partner, but that's why you have a community. That's why you have friends that you can lean on and grow with through those times. So I think that is definitely I agree with you on the misconceptions that people miss out on in being able to have this
I think
single life. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
I think that as a single person, it's important to evaluate what you really want out of life, because you may not be happy as a married person. You might enjoy your freedom. You might enjoy, coming and going as you please, not having to worry about somebody else's emotions or feelings and all that kind of stuff. And you have to take into consideration a whole nother human being when you are married. And you don't have to do all that when you're single. So you have to know yourself as an individual, if that's something that you want to do when you get married. People are looking at this whole wedding and they want to look at the glitz and glamour of it, but there's life after that. You say I do, and life after you go down that aisle.
That is
so it's advantages. Yeah, it's advantages to being married and being single. So
absolutely,
you got to know yourself and what you want and what you don't want.
I remember just a few weeks after my ex-husband moved out, and I was at a social gathering, and there was a table full of people, and I remember just feeling such an incredible amount of ease that I didn't have to worry about whether he was involved in the conversation, whether just the energy that I didn't even realize I was giving out. I used to say for a while afterward, I said, the energy that I spent keeping that marriage together, I could have brought peace in the Middle East. the energy to keep working on the relationship, to keep needs happy. It was an enormous energy. Now, obviously, not everybody's marriage is like that, But I think you certainly, when you've had an experience like that, you certainly have a lot more choiceful about what you want. I also think I've seen a number of women, their marriages end, and they pretty are very committed to finding a new partner right away. And what often happens is they end up repeating all the mistakes they made with their partner,
Yeah,
and end up just as unhappy, and really end up relationships that actually go nowhere. So I think
absolutely.
the importance of just being willing and vulnerable and honest enough to do work within yourself. And that can be hard work, spiritual work, with your work with God and the divine, with things like
Yeah,
who are you being in those relationships, and are you going to create, if you behave the way you're behaving, are you going to create the relationship that you actually want? So being willing to have that kind
that's
of self
good.
honesty and do that
Hmm.
personal
That's
work
good.
is
That's
really
good.
important.
I wish you were around, Miss Catherine, when I needed that. I had to learn the hard way, but that is so true. That is so true. It is absolutely true. Like you do. I mean, I took my break, but I wasn't that focused on myself and the healing. I was just trying to, I think get through life, and I think that's one thing too. Like, when you're going through your divorce, make sure that you do take the time to see yourself and all the broken places, right? Like, let's be honest, it takes two in a relationship, and you have to hold up to your accountabilities as well. So which leads me to kind of the next question, and I know you talked about this a little
Wait,
bit
before you go on
earlier.
to the next question,
Oh,
can
okay.
I just
Go ahead, go ahead.
wait. So also, like when we was talking about like community in that sense, with healing and knowing yourself and getting that relationship with yourself and with God, you really have to also be careful on what you're receiving from your community, because a lot of times your community will want something for you that you don't want for yourself,
Yeah,
or that God does not want for you. So you're striving to be what your community wants you to be, your friend wants you to be, or your family members want you to be, and you're wasting time trying to push and strive to be what they want you to be or do what they want you to do, when that's not what God's will is for your life, or what you want to do for your life. So you really have to be careful in that vulnerable time, because you're definitely vulnerable in that time when you're going through your divorce and your separation and all that hurt. So you're willing to sop up anything that people are telling you, even if it does sound positive. It may be very positive and uplifting, but it may not be the will for your life. So I just wanted to add that in there. You can go ahead
Thank
on
you
with
for
the
that.
next question.
That's really important, that the vulnerability after that time, and not it's it's kind of like they tell you after a death, never sign any important papers. The same thing.
right.
That's good. Yes.
No, that's good. And I think, Miss Catherine, you kind of talked about that too when you were, once again, talking about your community and relationships, how you were rebuilding yourself and knowing um, what people have capacity for, right? And just knowing if they have that capacity to help and support and do the right thing and have the right motives, and just
Mhm.
being very mindful of that.
Mhm.
Um, but like I said, you shared earlier a little bit of like how you would go take time to go pray and
Hmm.
just have your serene moments. So in that journey, even up to now your new lifestyle, how or what does your faith look like during this single season?
Oh boy. Thank you for asking.
Hmm.
I spend about hour and a half every morning doing a spiritual practice of prayer.
I love it.
I I pray at meals. I pray I pray before I go to bed. I'm actually in a spiritual development program now, and I've been in it for a year and a half. It is actually training me to be a healer,
Come on, I love it.
Mm.
and it's been startling to me, because it's really about all the healing is bringing in the divine love of God, and
Mm,
um, the profound healing that takes place with people, a little bit at a time. And The program that I'm in, so the program has had like 5 retreats. We're getting ready for the final retreat next month, and then a few hours of class also, and then others in addition to that. There's a lot of tapes on Inside Timer is a beautiful one, and there are other apps that have some beautiful taped, chanting and recitations. Those are extraordinarily helpful to me. There's also um, sound and vibration, I think, connects you with the divine very beautifully. So there's a lot of musics and vibration things that I work. I think absolutely, as Joe was saying, I think it's still a spiritual practice to be outside. I think it is one of the most profound connections with God to be outside and just to walk or create a garden or watch the birds. So those are probably some things. And there's also a community along with that. So I work with individuals doing the healing work and so forth. And all those things have been very deeply part of myself. And I'm open to other things. I go to different faith communities around town, and other and stuff that maybe it doesn't say it's spiritual life, but whether listening to lectures of people. And I think also just continuing to look at what is my role at this time in my life and what am I here to contribute.
Yeah.
That and particularly in the time they were at in the United States, which is different than it was last year and so forth. What is the unique voice that I can be for healing for people? I mean, that's an enormous spiritual question for me right now. What actions do I need to take that are really the voice of the divine, and that are the actions of the divine? How am I going to be an agent of peace in the kind of life that we're living right now?
I love
So
it.
those are some things that I think are pretty daily and pretty all the time with me. I've also part of that actually. Just a few friends. We actually formed a group. A sort of group around sort of political things that allows people to think and look at and reflect on things that are important right now.
Yeah.
But I think faith is just kind of a full-time job.
It literally is. You said it right there. It
Okay.
literally is. It literally is.
So it comes in. It comes in every aspect of life in many ways, and that's where you feel the most support, I think.
Most definitely. I love it.
You know,
Go ahead.
it's interesting that you are taking, you know, class on on healing, because I do see that on you. There's a peace on you that's just radiating out of you. It's like the peace of God. And people are gonna gravitate towards you, and you're going to they're gonna feel that peace. Um, and you are going to help them to find that peace and that rest in God that they're going to be looking for from the hurt that they're experiencing. So it's like a calmness that is a blanket over you that I see. So
Well, that is a
you are,
lovely thing, Joe. So thank you for that.
amen. Amen.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Well, I think anyone that does healing seriously knows that it doesn't come from you. It's only God passing
Absolutely.
you,
Mhm,
and
Absolutely.
having the actual honor of being able to do that to other people,
mhm.
to people be willing to accept that, because we so deeply need it today, and
Yes.
the fact that I can
Oh,
offer
absolutely.
is a real privilege.
No, and I love the one thing too that you said earlier too, as you were talking about faith, is that prayer is definitely an essential. Just having that communion with the Lord is is necessary. I don't care how you try to shake it, but having that talk with God, and just even to sit, whether you're sitting in nature or you're just sitting in a peaceful place within
Mhm,
your home, to just feel his presence, feel him talk to you, and feel that guidance, and knowing with that, it is building your faith, right? And it's exercising it, and then here you are now fulfilling purpose, and
mm,
putting yourself into a place in life to be able to be active and using the broken pieces now to heal others. And I think like I said, I'm trying to hold back tears tonight, but Miss Catherine, your story, this testimony, however you
It's
want to say it,
beautiful. It's
it
beautiful.
is so amazing. It's miraculous, if I could
It
just
is.
say it like that. It is
It is.
miraculous. And um thank you so much for your transparency this far and sharing that. I truly believe that this will be a great testimony, or podcast episode for others to listen to, and be inspired. It definitely has touched me. I see I can't even find words. I'm stuttering here. All right, Joe, you got the next question.
Okay,
Oh,
I'll let
goodness.
you cry while I answer the next
Okay,
question.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
So this episode is called Pick Up the Pieces. But our season, um, our season titled is Breaking the Silence.
Right.
So if you could break the silence on anything, what would you break the silence on?
So I thought about this question a lot. And this is what I came up with at this moment. So the former Surgeon General of the United States, Vivek Murthy, up until, I'm not sure who it is right now, but he actually declared a loneliness epidemic in the United States.
Wow.
That was the primary, as a health academic, a public health risk. So he did some really interesting talks on it, but just how that was actually contributing to enormous health risks and lack of vitality for this country. And there is, alongside of that, a guy. The book was written a number of years ago. Robert Putnam wrote a book called Bowling Alone, and it was about how people in the United States do things by themselves all the time. And he also did a very long research study, which showed that in the last 50 years, that the number of people that do civic engagement, and that's everything from going to church, being in a choir, being in the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, any sort of community club, anything like that, a block club, is dramatically fallen, like just like this.
Wow. Wow.
So, and what he said, and a byproduct of that is he noticed part of this research, what he found that countries, he did the research overseas, that had high civic engagement, they had much more effective governments and people were happier. And all I can say is that just being the act of being with people as community, whether it's a community garden, whether it's a block club, it's a group. I think that is an antidote to loneliness, and that recovering is more than an individual job. And we in America, with this whole life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, think that we have to recover by ourselves, and that's a terrible burden to put on people.
Absolutely.
That you're personally responsible from the fact that when there are maybe not the social systems, the social people that will support you, and other individuals that care about your well-being, that just the act of being engaged in your community, and maybe particularly the people you don't like, because that's how you learn to get along with people.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
so I think the biggest secret is just go out there and be to be conscious of how loneliness is so related to this isolation that we're feeling, and any opportunity you can take to be part of meaningful groups is a beautiful. It will help your mental health, your physical health. It will help the whole community in ways that we don't think about. And the notion of taking responsibility also for more than just yourself, that actually heals people from loneliness. And there's some amazing research on this, actually. But Robert Putnam is the fellow, if you want to look that up at any point. But it's this burden we have about ourselves, and that we create the social structures and those opportunities, even they don't have to be big ones, choirs, troops, and helping those things out is a phenomenal contribution to people when they're, and it's helping when you're experiencing grief or difficulty or any of those things, just having a group to come to.
Wow. Wow, that's powerful. Um, there we go. I was like, we lost Joe.
Joe, come back.
What happened?
But no, that's powerful. I mean, I don't think we really understand um, uh, how loneliness affects us, right? And how important community is to us. And however you choose to build that community, whether it is like you said, being a part of some social groups, church
Mhm.
groups, close friends, family, it is so important that you do have some type of interaction, and that's what kind of scares me sometimes with this next generation is that there's so much technology and there's not a lot of interrelational connection, and
Yes,
so and I
yes.
feel like we need that as humans. That's the way I feel like God created us. We need each other. So thank you for bringing that to our attention tonight. That was very powerful. Well, we have came to the end of this amazing podcast. Thank you once again, Miss Catherine, for sharing so much with us, so many gems, so many inside wisdom.
Yes,
Also, everybody,
yes.
please definitely get her book. It is called Yearning for Love, a Redless Divorcee's Rocky Road to uh, oh, what's the last part? Oh, I've never.
Um,
There we go.
Nirvana.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. And you can purchase this on major platforms. We'll also share her website where you can get all things and connect with her as well. We just want to be a support to her. So definitely make sure you go out and support her and get that book. If you know anybody too that could benefit from that, buy it for them. Do your friend a solid, as they would say, and support them in their journey, that could help them in this time of need. Well, before we end, though, Miss Catherine, do you have any last words of wisdom or advice you would like to share with our viewers before we end tonight?
Boy, you all do wonderful. I just think maybe it's the one thing I didn't mention specifically, but just the importance of gratitude. To always, even whether if your marriage is ending or other very hard things that people have to have in life, that usually there's a lot of things to feel grateful for, and it's been a profound help to me. And I think always keeping in mind that we have enormous things to be grateful for. It's just really important, and it will give you energy.
I love it. I love it. Joe, do you have any last things you want to share with anybody? Any last closing remarks?
She said it all. This was absolutely amazing. Thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge and everything that you have shared with us. It was a pleasure having you on and getting to know you. Don't be a stranger, and we welcome you back when you have
Well, thank you
time.
so much. You guys have been kind and lovely, and you're full of wisdom yourselves. So thank you so much for having me. This is really a pleasure.
Of course, of course. Yes, you are officially a part of the Tea Time family. So definitely do not be a stranger. We hope to have you on again soon. So until next time, you all, like I said, we are taking our break, our summer break. We will be back September. We will be going live in person on September 6th. So make sure you join us for our pop-up the start of the second part of the season and get into the tea. So until then, enjoy your summers, be safe, and we will see you next time on Tea Time with Liz and Friends.